We would like to welcome all that's listening or viewing this meeting of the Kansas City Board of Public Utilities, whether in person or through technology. Meeting is being recorded by both video and audio. During the visitors' comments section of the agenda, community members who wish to speak to the board will be asked to provide their name and will then have 3 minutes to speak. Members of the public using Zoom that wish to address the board need to use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the application or window to signal that they wish to address the board during the visitor comment section. In addition, there will be a public comment section after the general manager staff reports or the team reports. During this section, the public may comment on this evening's presentations. Members of the public connected by phone only need to press the *9 to indicate they wish to address the board in the visitors' comment section. Those attending in person should sign up on the sign-in sheet located near the entry with Ms. May. The comments are limited to 3 minutes and should be directed to the board. As these comments are public, the board cautions visitors to not disclose confidential account information or information on an account that is not in their name. Staff will not provide individual account information or history in an open meeting. As always, the public may also email or call the BPU with any concerns. The agenda and presentations may be found on the BPU website, or if you're using Zoom, they'll appear on your screen. As a reminder, this is a business meeting of the Board of Directors, and we will conduct the meeting accordingly. The following rules apply to this meeting. Every person in this room will act respectfully towards each other. Personal attacks and accusations towards any person will not be tolerated. So state your specific issue to the board only, and we will then determine the team or staff's involvement, and attendees shall refrain from side discussion or individual commentary that interferes with speakers or other attendees at this meeting. If side discussion is necessary, please take it outside of the boardroom. If any of the rules above are breached during the meeting, that individual is subject to removal from the boardroom. So my name is David Haley, a member at large for position 2, and the board president. Other members of our board and staff include Jeremy Ash, our general manager, Tom Groneman, 2nd District, Stevie Wakes Sr. with the 1st District, Brett Parker, our 3rd District, and our board secretary, Mary Gonzalez, member at large for position 1, Rose Mulvaney Henry, member at large, position number 3, and the board's vice president. Angela Lawson is our acting chief counsel. So please remember to put phones on silent. Please also be aware that the microphones are very sensitive and can pick up and record comments made anywhere in the room. So before we begin our meeting, please rise and join me in reciting our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the
United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Lawson, please call the roll for attendance.
Roll call. Haley,
Present.
Wakes,
Here.
Mulvaney Henry,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Gonzalez,
Here.
Groneman.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Before I ask for a motion to approve the regular session agenda for tonight of February 5th, 2025, are there any comments on the agenda?
This is Rose, so moved.
Wait a second.
If you'd please call the roll, Angela.
Roll call, or excuse me, yes, roll call. Haley,
Aye.
Wakes,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you. Before I ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the regular session from last meeting of January 22nd, 2025, are there any comments?
This is Rose, so moved.
Wait a second.
We have a motion and second. Could you, roll call, please? And
Roll call, Haley.
Aye.
Wakes.
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
That motion carries.
All right. Well, thank you. I will now, turn the meeting over to, our general manager, Mr. Ash, Jeremy Ash.
All right, Chris, is there anybody signed up to speak tonight? Thank you. Miss Dorothy Lloyd, is that correct? Will you please come to the podium and state your name and address for the board, and when you do that, you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
I have a complaint.
Please state your name for the record and
Oh.
address, please. Please, ma'am.
In here.
Oh, I know. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Dorothy Lloyd.
Yes, ma'am.
Dorothy M. Lloyd.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Lloyd. How are you? Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Please continue.
I have a complaint. And it's the first time I had this complaint. I got a bill from you all. And it document one amount. So I immediately called up here and I talked to a lady. She said her name was Teresa. She said, Miss Lord, we didn't put it on the bill. We didn't document it. The amount. Just find out you owe this extra amount. I said, this is the first time this ever happened to me. And I've been with the Board of Public Utility practically all my life. And that's over 70 years. And I said, I don't agree with you. I said, you didn't send me no documentation on that I owe that balance of $107. Well, it just come up. I said, that's not professional. It is not the way you're supposed to run business. So that's my complaint. Why did they charge an extra $7 and it wasn't accountable on my bill? I got the bill in my.
Well, thank you for coming in, Miss Lloyd. Abby Fry is here today, and
Okay.
she can
All right.
help you with all of that and be happy to take your information and follow up with you.
Wow.
Rob, is there anyone else? Thank you.
I know.
There's no other comments, Mr. President.
Okay. Well, thank you. We'll go, move on to, staff reports, general manager staff reports. Thank you.
Yeah, and at this time, we've got a couple of members of the Water Division here to talk to you all and the public about all of the investments we've made in our water infrastructure east of 635 and the plans we have to continue those investments to help improve the safety and reliability of our system. So with that, Philip?
As Rob is getting ready, as Rob is pulling up the presentation, I just want to say thank you everyone for coming out. I know the weather is kind of a little rough out there. We're getting ready to.
Excuse me,
Oh,
for the
yeah.
purpose of, please identify yourself.
Oh,
when you
yeah, I'm
come up and
sorry.
Give your name.
Hey, everybody, my name is Philip Brown. I am the civil engineer, or one of the civil engineers in our water engineering group. I work under, of course, Mr. Ash, Steve Green, who's the executive director of water, and I'm just in the water group with Chris Stewart and my colleague, DJ over there.
Thank
So
you,
we're
Bill.
all just in this group, and I really appreciate them coming out. I'm excited to talk to you tonight. I won't be long before you for long. I'll talk about some water infrastructure investments. Water is critical for our city. The two funding mechanisms we're going to talk about first is one funding from a correctional directed spending that we received $10 million for the EPA. It's for our aged water mains. If you remember, if you was on the board about 10 years ago, we had a small main replacement. That's what we called it before. This $10 million, we bid it May 29th, 2024. We're in construction right now. And we're going to go over that, where that's going $10 million, and we're estimating to replace about 9.51 miles of water mains in the city. The second funding mechanism I want to talk about is funded from the Kansas Department of Health. This is through the Kansas Public Water Loan Supply Fund, or the SRF fund. We completed all of our designs inside to the organization. We're planning to bid this summer, with construction hopefully starting this fall, and that is estimated to cost about $6 million, and that's 5.5 miles of water main there. The reason I wanted to highlight those two funding mechanisms is these two funding sources do not come directly from ratepayers initially, right? Water is very expensive. Infrastructure is just extremely expensive. And using these methods really allows us to achieve our goal of 1% of water main replacement per year. And I'm going to get into more of that later. But how did we choose all these locations? So what we did, east of 635, we divided it large areas into about 18 different areas. And then we started to look at how often did we have to go do water main repairs in these areas. After we did that, we started to concentrate which water mains on average have at least 2 leaks per mile per year. That means within a mile of water main, we go out there for some reason and excavate, dig up, shut off people's water as we make these emergency repairs. These next drawings I'm going to show are those 18 areas on the east of 635, and the shaded areas is what we did in the 2010, so 2015, 2016, 2017. Where we already completed this project before. So we're essentially doing phase 2 right now. C, E, G, I, H, those are all complete. And then we're going to talk through those next areas. Looking south of the Kansas River, we have M and O we already completed. And then the unshaded areas are where we're getting ready to start working in. Those areas that we are in construction right now, which my friend DJ is doing right now, is in the southeast corner of town. What you see here is the blue lines are just our water mains. You may have seen this image before. The orange color lines are the different color lines. Those are the water mains we're planning to replace. And so you can see we touch a lot of different people, a lot of different neighborhoods. And these are some of the worst water mains in those areas. This is Area Q. It is bounded by 18th Street to 635, where the north is Gibbs Road, and it goes all the way south to the county line, essentially. And it's the same thing where we have the blue lines, and then the different colors are where the water mains we're replacing. Area P is just north of that. Again, we're still between 635 and 18th Street, going all the way up to Metropolitan. These water mains have historically cost a lot of money to repair, and we're going to get into that. Areas A, B, D, and F. We just put these all together. This is just a giant alphabet soup. And so same concept. And as we do this construction, we're doing horizontal directional drilling to minimize the impact to all of our customers. Traditionally, we'll just go out and dig a trench, and then you leave that trench open as you put it in the water main. By doing horizontal directional drilling, there are open spots, but not as many. And a lot of times we're able to bypass people's driveways, so that way we don't interrupt their daily lives. Now, this area is special. This is technically on the west side of 635. But this area we call Highland Crest came up after the floods in the 50s. It was a neighborhood that sprouted up really, really fast. When they put that area in, the water mains were not the best material, okay? And it is historically one of the worst spots we have in our entire city. I heard stories from people who have worked there in the past where they'll go out in the morning to fix one water main. They'll finish it by noon. They get ready to turn the water main on. Boom, another one will happen. Then they'll start on that one. They finish that, turn the water main back on. Boom, another one happens. Before you know it, 24 hours has gone by and they're still working. It's a horrible, horrible water main, and it needs to be replaced. But all of this takes a lot of money. This particular funding, the areas before are all being funded by our EPA grant, that correction directed spending. This section here is gonna be funded through the loan process, and that's how we're gonna pay for the work. What I'm showing here, this is a really busy picture. Just bear with me though. The blue lines, of course, are our water mains, but those little red triangles, those little bitty red triangles is over the past since 1993. Every time we have had to go out there and dig up some section of the water main and to make a repair. That's a lot of red triangles, and is frankly is just it's a lot. So what is our schedule? Our schedule is right now, as I said, we're working on Area R. That started last summer, and we're hoping to finish that by summer 25 or this summer. Areas A, B, D, and F, our goal is to start this spring. We're gonna bring some extra crews, extra manpower on to make sure that we have this accelerated schedule. Now, I do wanna admit, I'll be the first to admit, this is a very aggressive schedule. Okay, very, very aggressive, but this work needs to be done. It is critical, and we're doing our best. Area P and Q is gonna be this fall to spring 26. Area O, which is using a different funding mechanism, is spring 26 to winter 26, about 2 years worth of work. During that time, of course, we're gonna spend $16 million, and that's about 15 miles of water main. How did we get here is it's important to understand our goals because our goals really drive what we need to spend our money on. And eventually it's going to get to one of the things I really want you to consider. So these areas that we're doing this infrastructure, Area P, for instance, had 157 leaks. That's about 3.9 leaks per mile per year. I'm going to jump through this fairly quick, but I think you kind of get where I'm going. Jump into R. R has 200 leaks in that section, and that's 2.5 leaks per mile per year. In Area O, 544. That was that Highland Crest area. I told you it was bad. 3.9 leaks per mile per year. One of the things we noticed that when we decided to use this method is that it makes an amazing improvement, not just in how often we're turning off, disrupting people's water sources as we're doing the repairs, but here's some data to back it up. 2 inches smaller breaks. In the 2014, 30% of all of our breaks were these small mains. After we did this phase one, it dropped down to 26%. 2017, 2018, 2019, that is a reduction of about 70 breaks per year. Estimated savings just in repair costs alone is $350,000. It also improves our fire protection. Many times we go into neighborhoods where they only have an 1.5 inch water main, replacing with a 6-inch water main and providing fire hydrants closer to people's houses. Phase two, for instance, our goal, our hope is to achieve at least 50 breaks per year. I want you to know that as a conservative estimate, I'm really hoping we get a much higher number. What this graph is showing is just where those 2 inches smaller, this is just a graph showing the same thing. You can see in 2014, that 33%, we had 200 different breaks. And over time, as we continue to install these water mains, we get rid of those old water mains, install new ones. You can see that line is decreasing, however, starting to plateau. And that's what we're focusing on today. We got to get that line down as much as possible, where we're hoping to get that additional 50 to drop off. So this is where my plea comes in to you. Even though we have these funding sources, replacing water mains is not cheap. It's a very important though for our society, for our communities. You cannot build a house or a building without having water to that building. If, for instance, we had all the 4-inch mains in these areas that were below the AWWA goal of 0.3 breaks per mile per year, I will have to come before you this fall during your budgeting season and say, in order for us to hit this goal, we need to get rid of all these bad water mains. And then I will beg, I will plead to ask Mr. Ash, can I have $50 million? He will look at me and tell me to leave. But that's how much work we actually have to do. It is a lot of things that we need to do. And it's imperative that each year as we're doing this, we're hitting that 1% per year goal of replacing our water mains. That's about 10 miles of water main each year. As you saw from that cost, that is expensive though. That's easily $10 million that we're asking for every single year. Originally, I was going to go through all these numbers, but I think you understand what I'm saying, that it's very expensive. And each time we have to cut our budget, it makes it harder just for future generations to support these things. With that, I am done, and I appreciate your time, and I'm opening up for questions.
Philip, before we have any questions, could you back up a couple of slides to one of the maps with the There you go. One of those that's easy to see. So to kind of put this in perspective, and you talk about $10 million grant, right? And we're gonna replace 10 miles of water main, right? Your team's using your data to select the worst spots and to go in there and fix those sections. So not necessarily a 10-mile contiguous piece where you're not doing a whole lot of good, right?
Correct. Yeah, so it's not just a continuous straight, going straight down
Mhm,
parallel
mhm,
Leavenworth
mhm.
Road. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Ash?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have to split up to all the different neighborhoods as we go through.
Thank you. Yes, Phil, considering, and I'm just looking at the Indian Springs where you have multiple breaks.
Yeah.
Which is west of 635. Developers,
Mhm.
they probably are aware of of the number of breaks we have per section. Is that something that they have to know about, and probably would de-incentivize them from developing in areas that have multiple water breaks because infrastructure is not up to date?
No, and the reason I say that is a lot of times when I see developers coming in, especially let's take this area here, a lot of times they're gonna go through the land bank or other places and they're gonna pair it with a lot of incentives to repair a lot of infrastructure.
Mhm.
There are some cases where they do have to replace infrastructure, but typically when you start seeing that, they were gonna do something significantly more. So let's say there used to be just residential houses and then they wanted to build townhomes or narrow lot design. That's going to cause an increase in your fire protection requirements. And they're really familiar with how you have to do that anyway. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen sometimes. You go into certain areas, but we do have a lot of areas where we have already replaced water mains that are just primed and ready to go for that investment.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Philip.
The only question Mr. Ash, are you gonna talk about the boil order in your miscellaneous discussion or comments? If not, I had a couple questions about.
Sure. And I guess Steve, Philip, don't go too far.
Here comes Steve.
So, as you all were made aware and all of that communication that went on, we did have a failure on a large main that required a boil advisory. It's different than an order, right? And Steve can talk to you about the difference, but I'll let Steve talk about what happened and then you can ask your questions and.
Well, the question, I'm sure will be answered
Yeah.
by that, but I just want to make sure that I
Yeah.
thought you probably. was
Yes,
gonna-
no, we absolutely was gonna mention it during my comments, and, talk about all the work that went into it and who all paired with that. But I think before I do that, Steve, if you want to go ahead and give a synopsis, that'd be great.
Okay, great. Like I said, I'm Steve Green, Executive Director of Water Operations. We got a call, customer called in about a leak at 11th and Everett. So, we sent our troubleshooter went up, realized it was a leak that at that time, it wasn't a bad leak, but called the leak detector to come up because we were gonna work it. So he come up as he was preparing to try to locate the leak. It gave away. The hole was about 2 foot by 2 foot in a 30-inch main. So it's a good thing that it happened while we were here. It's a lot quicker response. We were on the job, so they did a remarkable job of getting it shut down to limit the amount of time we had issues with low pressure. They did a remarkable job, actually. So we did lose some low pressures, got a few calls. We modeled the area where we thought there would be low pressure, and that's where we come up with our zone of putting in an alert. KDHE has a rule, if you drop below 20 PSI for a certain amount of time, that they'll put you on a boil advisory. Boil advisory is just cautionary, that we just want to make sure that people know to boil it. Why we take that first sample the next day and then wait 24 hours to make sure it is safe. And which we did. We talked to the state. They told us to divide it up. We took 4 samples in each quarter and then waited 24 hours at the lab, and they came out safe. We put the order, we sent the results to the state, and then they notified us that we were able to come out of the advisory. Like I said, this is the 3rd one I've been involved in. Had a real small area once, had a lot larger area the last time. This time, nobody likes going through them, but every water system goes through them. It's just a safe way to make sure our customers are safe, why we test the water. If you go out to the state, you can look at them every day. There's probably a dozen of them at least every day across the state. So the crews worked. Took us a little over 24 hours to get it repaired and get back. We're going to evaluate that pipe. The pipe was installed in 1910. It doesn't mean it's bad, but we're going to inspect it, do some looking at it to make sure that's in good shape. Because if we have any fear on it, then we're going to bring in an outside consultant. They'll do some inspections on it where they'll run some robots through the water main, and they'll kind of determine the metal loss on it. When I looked at it, I heard that it might be their concerns. I'm not positive that when I took a look at it, that it wasn't just surface corrosion, but we'll know more once we investigate it and start looking into the pipe and grinding it down to see what it looks like. Like I said, the crews did an outstanding job working in the conditions they were, because that night it was raining all night long, and it's hard work. They really did a great job. Questions?
I just want to follow up on that. We just had some information that we get many main breaks. What constitutes a main break that would require a boil order?
So it's a boil order is going to happen if you lose an area of pressure. The pressure drops way down and stays down for amount of time, whatever that is, 5-10 minutes. That would stay to boil. Could be the boil advisory. This was a big leak. It's a transmission main. So this main is going to reservoirs, but it's also feeding the neighborhoods while it goes through it to the reservoir. So when it goes blue, and unfortunate is when those big casts, heavy pipe, about 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches thick, when they blow, a lot of times it's big chunks that come out of them, and that's what it did. It was about a 2 foot by 2 foot chunk came out. That's the first leak we've had on that, and that we've had. So we're going to do some investigating to see if we need to put more money in looking at it. Like we've been doing inspections on our transmission mains. Most of them are concrete transmission mains. We've been doing inspections on that. But we're going to start looking at some of our metallic pipe, the metal pipe. So we see a lot of leaks, but most of them don't require us. I mean, obviously, they don't require us to go into a boil advisory.
So Steve, if you could explain why the pressure is important. And so normal pressure is what
Yeah,
you drop below here,
yeah.
but why is that important?
When you drop below the 20 and get below 20 and start getting down in the teens and below 10, you have a chance of bringing something into the main. So we teach our crews. So like we go out to repair a leak, we never just want to shut the main down before we have it dug up, because it could bring stuff into the main. So we keep positive pressure. So we'll start isolating it down to close the valves. So we keep enough pressure on the main that's always pushing out of our leak. We dig it up. Once it's dug up and they have, that we know nothing can get in the main, and then they'll shut the main down to make repairs. So that's a transition that we started, oh gosh, years ago of doing. Before, the crews in the old days, they would just shut down. Well, that would bring all that stuff could go into the main. So now the method is you keep positive pressure, and then dig it up, expose the main, and then you totally complete the shut off to make the repair. So, like I said, unfortunate is that someday we'll go through another boil advisory. It's not a bad thing. It's looking out for the customers. It's a bad thing is if you continue to have one main and you don't do anything about it, and you continue to neglect that one main that caused you that trouble. Then that's when you start having that's when it's a bad thing, because you need to look into that more investigation, car replacement. So, but like I said, we go through them. All the cities around us go through them because it's how we make sure our customers protected.
It was a boil advisory, not a boil order.
Yeah, it's a boil advisory, and boil order is when contaminants have got into the water main. So we're advisory.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other, after there's an advisory, if an order is put out, how is notice afforded to the public? How do you let them know, hey, boil your water because we've got the contaminant? How would the information go out? How's notice?
If we would have come back with a positive test, we would have stayed in that advisory, let's say, because it could happen, because taking samples are very difficult. And that day that we took the sample, it was raining. So we're doing every protection we can, having umbrellas, everything, trying to take the sample. We take them at residents' houses. We have TCRs. We take samples every month. We take 120 samples every month across the county. The states, we set up these grids. So every part of our community tested. There's an address. We actually have about 4 addresses, each one that we could go grab any of those houses. And it's set up through your whole system. So your whole system gets tested every month. And we grab those samples. And so like we came back good. If we would have come back with a positive sample, doesn't mean that we could have contaminated it by taking it, because you have to know what you're doing when you take samples. Then we would have went another 24 hours to resample those, because we had our sampler in here, because it can happen. So we were prepared to take samples again and go through it if we had to go another 24 hours. Luckily, we didn't. They came back good, and we were able to put the main back in really quick fashion.
When's the last time we had a boil order?
16, I think it was.
Was a boil order?
Oh, order, we've never had an order.
Never had a boil order.
I don't think we've ever had a boil. Yeah, never a boil order. I don't think so. I think we've always been in advisories.
Okay, and the last one you said was 16?
16 was the last one. One before that was 2012, somewhere there.
Okay.
Yeah. And the one before that was the plane that crashed into, at that time, our water plant was at Quindaro, and that plane crashed into our basin. We had a system-wide boil advisory. That was before my time. I was in high school then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Gabby.
So, but again, our crews did an amazing job. They really did. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. And just so the board knows, anytime we have an event like this, whether it be some major disturbance on the electric system or the water system, we typically do a debrief and a lesson learned, and we have that teed up, and Amber's going to help us with that. So, but I did want to just take a minute, like Steve said, to give kudos to the crews. I went by there that night about 8 o'clock or so. It was cold, it was steady rain, and they were out there working, standing in the rain. I know that's what they get paid for, and a lot of times we hear, a lot of the negative stuff, but oftentimes we forget just how regularly all of our team members answer the bell when it rings. So that was great. I was back out there the next morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, and the excavation was filled in. The electric team had a pole that they had to remove, a double circuit 3-phase pole. That was reinstalled. The phases were tied down, and the cleaning up the street process was going on. So that was less than 12 hours from when the time I was there the night before. So, and it takes a lot. It's not just the water team. They certainly bear the brunt of that work and will continue to be on that project cleaning it up. But Rob Camp, Jerry, the IT team, and all of the coordination they had to pull together for us to come out of the advisory and get people notified, and certainly the electric team and the things they had to do to make sure that the water guys had a safe job site. That's our, we want to keep everybody as safe as possible. They do dangerous jobs already as it is, and so that coordination and performance is paramount in these times, and they really stepped up and answered the bell. So big thanks to all the crews for that. And we'll get better. Amber, she shepherded some of us through some of this to do things different than maybe we've done in the past. And I have no doubt with our lessons learned meeting, she's going to help us get even better at that. So one other comment that I have is to give a big round of kudos to the folks at Electric Production, Don Stahl and his team. You talk about the way our philosophy has changed down there and the things that team has taken on, and you can see it in our performance. In December of 2023, that unit ran 0 days. In January of 2024, that unit ran 13 days. In December of 2024, it ran 25 days, and it has ran every hour of this year. So Don and the team, thanks for all the work you're doing down there. That's an important asset, and all of their diligence is paying off.
Excellent.
So with that, Mr. President, those are all the comments I have tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Ash. Appreciate the reviews that we've had. Are there any, we still have the public comments agenda. Are there any members of the public who want to bring comment to the items that we've heard this evening that's still on our agenda?
There's one hand raised.
Showing anyone? If you come if they're here, come forward.
It's on the phone.
Oh,
I
online.
have 2 hands raised online.
No one here, though, in this present? Okay, then the 2, please.
First, I'm going to enable Scott.
Yes, this is Scott Harding, Wyandotte County. My question is to the board. I understand that the customer service everybody talks about, it sounds like you guys already converted the customer service area into a security area and to like office spaces.
Excuse
Is
me.
that true?
Excuse me, Mr. Harding.
Uh-huh.
This is David Haley. This is
Uh-huh.
the board president. We've reserved this time for public comment on the agenda items that we've heard. Your comment was probably one you wanted to bring during the visitor's comment earlier in the meeting. I would invite you to be back in touch with us on that point, on any other point you have back in visitors' comments at the next meeting.
No, but I do believe the guys that does the work on your pipes and your electricity and all that stuff, they are hardworking men and they work in extreme weather conditions and they do a good job. I think they ought to be commended for that.
Well, thank you.
And
We appreciate that. Indeed, we agree. We concur. Thank you for your call.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Next up is Dr. Rosa Hall.
Dr. Hall, Dr. Rosa Hall, can you hear me? Hello? She unmuted.
She's unmuted. Dr. Hall, you're unmuted, but we don't have any audio.
Well,
No.
oh,
Oh,
there you
we
go.
can hear you now,
Okay,
Dr. Hall.
All right,
Go ahead.
all right. Go
Hello?
ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Hall. Please identify yourself and continue.
Yes, good evening. My name is Dr. Hall, Rosas Hall normally. First of all, thank you for giving me the time to speak. I have a question as far as directional boring with your new water uh, grant expenditure. My question is that directional boring gonna be subcontracted to other companies? Or is that gonna be happening with our local employees from BPU? And if it's not, will you open those positions for our community to apply?
We'll allow that
And
question.
that's my question.
All right, please identify yourself and reply, if you will, Philip.
Hi, this is Philip Brown, one of the civil engineers. For the current one that's under construction right now, we already went out. It was bidded out. We have multiple contractors look at it. For the next one, which is going to be funded from the KDHE loaning, that will also go out for a bid. So if you have a plumbing contractor who has at least 5 years of experience, I think it's 10 years of directional boring experience, I would love to see that company come in and bid on this project.
Okay, thank you, sir. My next question is for either the board president or our new CEO. As I'm hearing this, the jobs are being contracted or subcontracted to other companies. My question as a community member is, are you going to maybe start looking into starting a hiring process for our community here in Wyandotte County? As you know, our taxes are getting higher, the expenses are getting more. The goal is that the job market and that the employment increases within our community instead of subcontracting. And that hopefully I didn't confuse you guys with my question.
Dr. Hall, this is David Haley, Board President. I'm going to pass that question off. I think it's a good question, but I'll leave that for our General Manager and/or our team member to answer.
Well, thank you for the question, Dr. Hall. Couple of questions in that question. So we have an approved staffing plan, and we do the best we can to keep those jobs filled. And sometimes when we go out and we get these grant monies, there's a couple of stipulations tied with them. Sometimes there's time periods. You have to have the money spent, the work completed, things of that nature by a certain time period, or you risk losing that funding. And so when we attempt to manage all the work that we have to manage, whether it be maintenance work, new build work, restoration work like this, we weigh all those things out together to see how we can be the most efficient with the dollars, get the most bang for our buck, to save those things you're talking about with the taxes and that. The second part of that staffing is some of these projects are short-term projects. They're not long-term projects. And so it makes more sense to get a contractor in here who specializes in those kinds of things and to get the work done as efficiently and as cost-effective as we can. The last part of that is anytime you bring on new headcount, they're not just, performing work. They're also now then become a liability back to the rate side of things. We have to pay for those people ongoing forever and ever and ever. We're not just going to hire them for a few weeks to complete a bore and then fire them. So that's a little bit about the process and how we determine what we're going to complete in-house versus what we're going to contract out and manage the workforce and the funding that we have available.
Okay. So,
Do that.
thank you.
That was 3
One
minutes.
second, Ms. Alt, we do have some additional follow-up to that.
Hi, this is
Identify.
Philip Brown again. Just to add on to what our general manager said, the contractor that won this most recent round of bidding is actually a local contractor. They're based here in Wyandotte County. So we're really thankful that we was able to keep the dollars, this $10 million here. So our local contractors, local people from here are doing the work and installing this water main. Thank you.
And that's a good point Philip brought up, that we do, in all of our purchasing policies, the folks that are qualified to perform certain tasks or provide us with certain goods and services, if they are local Wyandotte County businesses and service providers, they do get a little bit of extra consideration in the purchasing grading process. So we're doing everything we can to keep as much of that business right here in Wyandotte County.
Thank you so much for your responses. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your call, Dr. Hall. Anyone else, Mr. Camp? Okay. Well, that brings us then to the board comments, I believe. If you're through, Mr. Ash.
Yes, it's all yours,
Okay, all
Mr.
right,
President.
great. Thank you. Then we have our board comments. Begin this evening with our Vice President, Rose Mulvaney Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just so I don't forget it, that last topic we were just discussing, my day job is in the building fiber optic network business. And my company operates in 20 states today, and they are performing construction in probably 30 cities every single day across that footprint. And we directionally bore every single day. And we actually contract out every single directional bore team that we have. Number one, because you wouldn't want to take that inside, right? I mean, we have a need for it every day, but I mean, there's balances there. And I thought, I can't imagine BPU actually having some directional bore team on staff full time, just based on how often it's needed, right? So I just want to throw that in. I always like to throw my day job in. We all know that. Yeah, I wanted a few comments on the Boyle advisory that was issued. And number one, I want to thank the BPU team for the extremely proactive communication to the board on that. That was really helpful, and for questions that, you know, some of us were fielding out in the community. So I appreciate that. You guys have acknowledged we had some communication missteps on it. And I know that you guys are working diligently to correct that. I know that on the back end, some of it was already corrected. So you guys worked through the clock, you know. I know that the crews, you know, out on site worked, you know, round the clock to get that repaired as quickly as possible. Got us out of the Boyle advisory in, I think, less than 48 hours, if I'm not mistaken, you know, which is just, you know, rocket speed. And, but internally, the team, you've recognized some of them, but, you know, Amber, I know that you were hard at work on this. Jeremy, I know you were hard at work. Jerry, you and your team were hard at work as well. And it was a total team effort, and it's not lost on certainly me, and I'm sure not the other board members as well. So thank you guys for that. I appreciate it. Philip, your presentation was phenomenal as always. Really appreciate your advocacy for the water department. You're so good at it. And if I had $1 billion to give you to invest in infrastructure, I'd give it out of my pocket if I could, because you're so good. But, you know, just the attention that, you know, the utility is spending regarding replacement and repair of infrastructure that, you know, you mentioned, Steve, you mentioned that water main, that issue in the Boyle advisory was installed in 1910, right? And it doesn't make it a bad thing, just makes it old. And the fact that you guys do this, you know, systematically, you go about repair and replacement, it's welcome from my perspective, and I think the whole community should have an appreciation for that. So thank you for your guys' efforts. Really appreciate the water team for all of that. I would ask the board, if I would like to ask the board for permission to attend the AWWA conference this year, because I'm now going to spend much more time on the water side, because Philip he's evangelized the water, that I've got to go see what this is about. So I'd ask the board for permission to attend that. I think we have to have a vote on that, please.
Yes.
I move to allow Rose to attend the water convention.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Roll call. Haley?
Aye.
Wakes?
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Gonzalez?
Aye.
Brenneman?
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you, board. I appreciate that.
May I ask, when is the AWWA?
AWWA. Yes, sir.
When is it?
Early June
Okay.
Like
okay.
Yeah.
June 7th.
in Denver.
Okay.
Close.
I know where it is.
Drivable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last thing I have tonight, I see BPU does not celebrate Spirit Week like the rest of the entire city, and that pains me, Mr. General Manager, but I wore my red tonight, and I want to say go Chiefs. Angie's got hers on. So, you know, she's got his on there, so, but obviously go Chiefs, big weekend there we go. Rob's got his, yeah, there we go. That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you. A little wordy tonight. Apologize.
Thank you, Rose Mulvaney Henry. Mary Gonzalez, position 1, member at large.
I also would like to ask permission to attend AWWA.
Mm.
I try to alternate between
Philip, getting us all there.
between power and water. This is my water year, and I'm, as a lifelong learner, hoping to gain more knowledge about everything. So I would ask your permission to go to that.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Roll call, Haley,
Aye.
Wakes,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
I
Groneman.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. I would also like to thank Philip tonight for your presentation and bringing out all your supporters there to back you up. That's really good. Good to see a lot of the people from the water department that I don't always see. If I see a truck in my neighborhood and they're working, which is sometimes more than I'd like to see in Rosedale area, I usually try to stop and say hello or give them a wave. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Brett Parker, 3rd District, and also our board secretary.
Echo all the comments before, minus the request to travel. I don't have one of those yet. But I do appreciate all the great information, especially from our folks on the water side tonight. I just wanted to say, between that conversation and then the response of the board to the public comments on the agenda items, one of the things that struck me in my just about a year here on the board is how thoughtful all the folks that I've interacted on staff at all levels have been about the work that you all do. Whether it's about just how to do an excellent job in that role, or sort of the bigger picture, the thought that goes into how every dollar is spent in the most cost-effective way, and whether that means, you know, in this case, we contract out the work because that's the best bang for the buck, or this is something that really makes sense for the folks that we serve to have in-house. I don't think I've had a single conversation in over the year on the board where we've gotten into some of the weeds on that, and it hasn't been just incredibly obvious. Again, just all the folks that we work with, how much thought and care goes into those decisions, and keeping our, you know, friends and neighbors and community front of mind when those happen. So I appreciate that.
Well said. Thank you so much, Mr. Parker. Stevie Wakes, 1st District, Stevie Wakes Senior, I'm sorry, 1st District.
I want to also echo the comments Rose mentioned about giving giving $6 million to Phil.
Well, I told him I'd give him $1 billion. If
Oh,
I had it in
yeah.
my pocket, I'd give
Okay,
him $1
okay.
billion.
So I don't know if there's a way that we can raise rates for her only, but we might, anyway, anyway, I just wanted to echo the comments. Phil, thank you so much. Steve, crew. I live not too far from where their water main broke, and so I was affected in my travel from east to west, west to east, because Washington for a brief moment was closed down. But when I looked and saw the workers there, and I saw machines I'd never seen before working, and I was amazed at the work that was being done there, and very pleased at the communication that was made regarding the area affected. We did hear from people outside of the area thinking that why didn't we hear about what? Because you're not in the area. So I really appreciate all the work that was done. And again, I was really amazed by the workers and what they were doing at that particular site. So I was able to drive by there a couple of times in my travel back and forth. So Want to thank all of you, the team BPU, for doing such a great job with that effort. But along with Rose and Mary, I cannot ask to go to AWWA, but I will ask for permission from the board to go to a PPA conference in New Orleans this year.
Ms. Rose, so moved.
Mary, second.
Moved and seconded, roll call.
Roll call, Haley,
Aye.
Wakes,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes your remarks.
That's included.
Okay, all right, all right. And now, certainly, comments from Tom Groneman, our second district.
Again, I just reiterate everything that everybody else has said. I particularly want to thank and congratulate our team members who worked so diligently on the break. The ones that were out there actually in the hole, and those behind the scenes that were also working hard to make sure that the water got turned back on and was safe for our people. So thank you all for all that you do. I appreciate it. I know that the customer appreciates it too. So that's all my comments.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Groneman. And my comments will be brief. Just certainly, first and foremost, thank you, Philip, Steve, for giving an overview of what's happening in terms of various areas for our water mains. And also want to echo the response that was given to this this area that resulted in the advisory for the boil. For the boil advisory that we had. It was a swift response, and we're very appreciative. Want to extend to our general manager and others. BPU is widely represented and well respected among the KMU. They were at a conference there that they attended with the Kansas Municipal Utilities and gave me an opportunity to talk among various members. And we have a stellar reputation, I'm pleased to report, and that's in no small part of the team that's working all the time to keep our image up and the level of service that we deliver. And I appreciated seeing you there and hearing all the good comments from, well, there are no peers that BPU has in the state of Kansas, but from those that work alongside many in the areas, we have no peer. That's my statement, not everyone else's. To the public attendee that came, Ms. Lloyd, I personally will continue to push. I hope that your issue was resolved. And I certainly, for one, apologize that it takes so much to get so little addressed on a bill. I'm continue to be optimistic that we will have some easily accessed lobby that on a day like today, that no member of the ratepayers or public would have to go through so much to obtain the equity that deserves in being a ratepayer, that we at least have a kiosk or some means by way of personal intervention that would not necessitate having to go through this to get an issue resolved regarding a bill. So accept my apology, ma'am, if you will, for that, and anyone else who's listening. And to that end, in closing, I think our mission statement bears repeating and further understanding. It's posted on the wall. It goes out in the connection. Thank you that you send out. It's there, but I don't know if we pay as much attention to it. Like the Pledge of Allegiance, we stand up and say something without really realizing exactly how we take it to mind. And our mission statement on the wall is our mission is to focus on the needs of our customers to improve the quality of life in our community while promoting safe, reliable, and sustainable utilities. I didn't write that. I don't know if anybody here of the board wrote it or the current team, but whoever wrote it, I think stated it very well. And I hope we would bear in mind, as often as possible, focus on the mission of the BPU, of the Board of Public Utilities of Kansas City, Kansas. And having been said, I want to echo that this is a great, stellar week for the Kansas City metropolitan area. Three-peat is pending, and I know we wish all the best what it means to our communities. As we say, go Chiefs for the three-peat on this Sunday at the Super Bowl. That's all my comments, so, is there any further comments?
I move to adjourn.
Oh, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, thank you. Roll call.
Roll call, Haley.
Aye.
Wakes.
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
I
Groneman.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Meeting